it's our duty to the animal, it's our duty to each other to really take care of meat properly, and that's what we're doing here. What's up, folks? We're about to show how to properly handle a deer with John Rochetta. We have a fresh deer coming in, and we're going to show you what we do now, how long it stays, and then when it's time to butcher it, how it should look, how soft the ham should be before you butcher it. So we have a hunter here. Say hello, Hunter.
Hello.
All right. So we got a medium-sized deer. I'm putting them on the skinning table right now. First thing we do is the hock glands. I take them right off. The deer's gonna be hanging upside down, and if any moisture drips off of them, it's gonna end up in your meat. So I'm gonna hold that leg right there so I can kind of show this. You pinch and you pull away, and you basically skin off the hock gland. I do this in the woods, so I don't even bring them out with me. Some guys actually use these for scent. They pin them to a tree, and so other deer can smell it. But like I said, it stinks. So you take them off. The other thing we do, I take off the back legs. Here's my trick. A set of loppers. Taking the front legs off is a lot easier. The back legs, finding that exact joint without cutting the Achilles tendon, is a pain in the neck. So I just cut it here with a lopper. Okay. And then I can just cut the skin. Put that in the bucket. Then you cut the slit between the Achilles tendon and what would be the femur there. And while using your knife in the woods, try to do that. Try to cut the things that you're going to be cutting, so when you come back, you don't have to find your knife. Here's the front leg. If you do a circle around it, and you turn, comes right off. Second front leg again, right on the joint. Come around the joint, twist and turn, comes right off. So another thing that we do, if you look, the hunter took the male genitalia off the deer. Technically, you're supposed to leave proof of sex. But right now, obviously, it's gone. And what it does do by removing all that is exposes the hams. Or that ends up being one of your really nice roasts. So this deer is going to hang for 5 to 7 days. That's going to dry out. And then I'm going to call this guy and say, hey, your meat dried out. So it's not my fault, it's his fault. So leaving that kind of intact, 1, legally, 2, to keep that meat from drying out. I age a deer with skin on it. An elk or larger animals, you're going to have to take that skin off to cool it down quickly. I got a cooler set up right behind us. I'll show you in a second. It's already down to 34 to 38 degrees. No problem there. So we're in good shape. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to make sure the hunter got everything out. All right. I'm going to take my hands through here and make sure I can touch them. Yep, he did a good job of that. He didn't take the fillets out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly remove what we call as the loins. It's actually a filet mignon. This is actually your loin. And if you don't take it out now, you're going to end up having a problem with it later. Okay, there's one more in here. You just cut right along the spine. I know you can't see me right now, but I'm cutting along the spine and around, and then across the top. Again, guys, this is your filet mignon. This is when you have a porterhouse, the soft side of the porterhouse. A deer is so small, I mean, this piece on a cow is much bigger, but this is your best piece of meat. I'm going to clean that off. I don't like putting water on it, but with these, because it's got blood on the inside of the cavity, I tend to clean it with a little bit of water, then I dry it. That'll be on my eggs tomorrow morning. Sorry, bud, you didn't take it out as soon as you lose. All right, guys and girls. we're about to hang the deer in the walking box. And again, I leave it there for 5 to 7 days. You'll see us come by. We'll hang that deer. You got to make sure it's, you know, rear up, head down, let all that blood drain, let everything dry out, and that makes a much better tasting venison. All right, that deer's hanging. Sit. Okay, I'm gonna leave that deer and I'm gonna let the air from the fan cool it down. The temperature here, I don't know if you can see it, that blue zone shows me that the deer is aging at the right temperature. All right, when it's time to clean this deer, I'll see you next week. What's up, folks? It's been 7 days, we're back. The deer is gonna come out of the walk-in box and we're gonna show you the proper way to handle it and the way I butcher it. Before we do that, I kind of want to show you what my tools are for butchering a deer. Safety glove. I put it on my left hand underneath my, disposable gloves so I don't cut my hand. I use 5 and 6 inch knives, a boning knife, another larger boning knife, and kind of a flexible fillet type knife that I'll use for cutting steaks and things like that. My knife sharpener. You can use any type of sharpener. Some guys use the hands. I use an electric. I have my grinder over here. I'll show you how to use later. And then behind me over here, I have some wrapping equipment that you'll see as we get to that point. So, always have my Clorox bottle with me. I clean the table with Clorox before I get started to keep it clean. Paper towels. Sometimes I'll use a terry cloth rag and things like that, but I like the cleanliness of paper towels. You throw it away. So, I also have my vacuum sealing bags and stainless steel table. I do get in arguments with some of my buddies about their knives and touching stainless steel with them as opposed to using a cutting board. I do a lot of deer, and cleaning the cutting boards takes me more time, and I use a Victorinox knife, and I sharpen it, I clean the deer, I butcher the deer, I touch it back up, it's fine. If I have to buy another knife in a couple of years, I'm okay with that. I like the cleanliness of a stainless steel table, something I can disinfect. It makes me more comfortable, makes me know that the meat isn't contaminated with anything. We're gonna pull this deer out and we're gonna get going. We have Vanna White here. Vanna's name is Steve, so say hello to the camera.
How's it going, everybody?
Okay guys, like I said, I aged this deer for 7 days, and what it does is it literally softens up the meat. Meat starts to break down, it is cold, it's safe, but the aging process makes it more tender and makes it taste better. Steve and I are going to skin this now. Hopefully we'll speed up the video so you don't have to sit through the whole thing, but I'll give you some tips on what I do to skin the deer and what makes it better for the table. So, I start at the back end of the deer. Steve will do one side, I'll do the other side. You run your knife down the inside of the leg, and you kind of pick up the skin so you don't, slice the ham or the back of the deer here. And if you remember, when the hunter brought this in, I told him he shouldn't have taken the skin off of the back leg here, and it was going to dry out. You can see it's kind of dry. So we're going to have to take that piece of meat off and see what it looks like later. You'll have a little bit of loss from that. I hope you can see this. I'm pulling away with the skin. Now this is a skinning table, and the reason why I use a skinning table is so I'm not bent over. Some guys like to hang them and skin them, but then you're moving around the deer, the deer's spinning. This obviously holds the deer still, and when you're skinning it, it just makes it a lot nicer, not only on your back, but on your wrists and your hands, and you pulling the angle at which you could pull the skin off. This typically takes, so I have to talk away from the camera, but gotta skin. This typically takes anywhere between, I would say, 10 and 12 minutes to skin a deer. And it's also a cold deer. So a cold deer skins a lot tougher than a warm deer. But again, I like to age my venison with the skin on. It's a small enough animal that it cools down fast enough. Unless it's out overnight, then you want to get the skin off right away. But we're both peeling back. He works that side, I work this side. One, because we annoy each other. Two, because it's safer. You don't, take the knife and, push it towards somebody that far away. On the front shoulder here, I'm just running right down the leg and coming up into the brisket, okay? If you're gonna mount the deer, typically what we would do is we skin it from the other side and you run down the edge of the white and the brown. So when you're taking a cape off a deer, it's a different method of skinning it because you're concerned of having enough skin to put around the mold, the mount mold. But right now, we're not keeping this skin. This is a deer that's going to be used for food, and the cape is not of any use to us. So the idea is to get it off as quick as possible. So he's working that side, I'm working this side. Not getting hair on the meat right now is extremely important and probably one of my biggest pet peeves. When buddies help me and I get hair all over the meat, it takes me longer to get the hair off the meat than it would have if I just took my time skinning it. I'm actually going to back this up 1 second to show you another move here. When you get to the top of the brisket here, you take the knife, get just under the skin, and you run it right down the center of the neck. That'll make life a lot easier when the deer is hanging vertically and you have to skin around the neck. Everybody can do this. Guys, I am not professionally trained on this, but a few thousand deers later, and you learn what to do. I had to do it because I couldn't afford butchering. My first deer, shot it, brought it home, and I had to do it myself. I couldn't afford to have it butchered. So, learning how to do it when I was young, started with a squirrel with my BB gun, and progressed to a deer. It's basically the same technique. I'm actually going to bring the camera over here. Try not to wobble it so much. What I'm doing here is I'm skinning the back leg, and the idea is not to cut the Achilles tendon. I just pulled it around the back side of it, nice and clean. Achilles tendon's still intact. Steve did a great job on his side, but the Achilles tendon's still intact.
In case it happens.
Yep, when that happens, that's one of the few things that is Steve's biggest pet peeve. And he created a little rope that you tie around the back of the leg so you can hang the deer. All right. We're getting close now to where we want to hang it. Basically, you're taking everything on the top side of the deer and skinning it down. Okay, Steve's going to skin the neck. And I'm going to go behind you guys and get the winch. This isn't a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is just us butchering a deer. There we're hanging the deer vertically so that we could skin it, completion of the skinning, and then begin quartering it. I typically put a garbage can under the deer so one, it leaks blood into it. Two, anything that you don't want drops right in the garbage can. This is kind of cool. Want to grab from the other side, Steve? Okay, pull.
Hold on.
Couple more cuts around the neck here. Okay. That's pretty much it. Now, I do have a trick. I leave this connected so that it controls the deer from swinging all over the place. First thing we do is we take off the shoulders. All right, what Steve's doing right now is he's pulling the shoulder away from the body. Yeah, you can zoom in if you need. Okay, one shoulder off. Right under here, you're basically pushing it out. Deer do not have a clavicle. Your collarbone, so you don't have to worry about that. That allows them to put their legs closer to their body to, to kind of like squirt under fences and things like that. So when you're taking the shoulders off, you just peel them backwards. And there you go, shoulders off the deer. We clean this table with bleach so we know exactly what what's on it. I'm gonna take this piece off here. The flank is dried out, so it's not really usable. I turn it to the inside. Same thing on the other side. Everybody butchers deer slightly differently. We get a lot of venison, so we do not use the rib meat on our deer. It's a little bit of a sin, but we get so much of it. And deer fat is not the greatest thing to have in your mouth. If you don't like your buddy, give him a nice deer rib off the barbecue and a cold beer. Watch what happens to his face in about 30 seconds. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm cutting straight over from basically where the hip ends and you come into the top of the back strap. I turn down the spine. I'm going to turn this way so you can see. And I'm going right down the spine, similar to a fish. All the way down the neck to the bottom. Then I take a cut from the side, kind of like into the bone and down. Then I need to pull the back strap away from the ribs. All right. Once you get that going, it's a lot easier. And this deer's been aging, so it's nice and soft now. It's not a very fat deer, so the actual tasting of it later, we'll check it out. But it doesn't have any foul smell at all, right, Steve?
No, there's no smell.
No smell at all. I mean, if you're doing this on a deer and it's stinky, remember how I took care of it at the beginning of the video? You didn't take care of it properly. Okay, so here's the back strap coming off the deer. I'm kind of pulling it and letting the weight itself. That came off there because that's where the shot went through the deer. So I'm going to take that part of the back strap off. And I'm going to continue with the neck meat. Taking the neck meat off while you're taking the back strap off makes life a lot easier. And whether you're going to use it for grind or you're going to use it for a neck roast or something like that, up to you. There's the first part. Coming into the second part, same thing with the back strap. I'll circle around, going right down the spine, into the neck meat, all the way down. One cut. Come from here, into the ribs, another cut. Because I'm righty, it's a little easier to do this side. And you peel the back strap away from the ribs. And in a cow, you'd be talking about New York strip, you'd be talking about ribeyes, you'd be talking about porterhouses, different sections of the back here. The insides with the fillets, we took them out already. Okay. The knife typically just runs right along it. Now I'm past the back strap and I'm into the neck meat, but while it's hanging and the weight of the back strap helps me get the neck meat off the deer. Obviously, the bigger the deer, the back strap is separated from the neck meat, which is supposed to happen. Okay. There you go. There's the rest of the neck meat. We're almost done quartering the deer. I'm reaching over. Here's my bone saw. I'm going to cut it almost where the brisket comes through, just to keep it. There's one piece. Then I cut it again, approximately where the back strap was, all right, there you go. Now, we have the hindquarters. What I do with a hindquarter, to get a hindquarter off and onto the table here, I'll cut the Achilles tendon now. And I let it hang. And with my winch, I'm going to go back up. I'm going to spin it around. This is the center of the hindquarter. There's the dried meat that I don't love. Cut straight through. Now, there's a little bump here I got to get around. And back along the bone. Here is the joint. I just broke the joint. That's like your hip bone joint. You take the knife and you pop that tendon. And then you cut back in along the bones. And the only thing left there is the hip. There you go. There's one ham off. And while I have you going, what I do on the second one is I grab the hip. And I go through here. Same thing. And I use the weight of the hip itself, and my weight on it, I should say, to pop that. There's the knuckle joint again. There's that hip joint. Got to cut that tendon right through. Once you're through it, the knife gets turned down back along the hip bone again. You want to get as close to the bone as possible. Okay? There's your hips out of the deer. There's really not a lot of meat left. That's the top of the back. So there's a teeny bit here, but other than that, you're done. You have your hams, you have your shoulders, you have your back straps. Taking this off, laying this on the table. All right, next move. Okay, we're back on the actual cleaning, on the butchering table. I'm going to use a little bit more of a fillet knife, and we're going to work on the back straps first. Before I do that, I'm just going to touch it up to coarse, and then a finer sharpening. And again, I use Victorinox knives, and I don't use a cutting board. I go right in the stainless steel table, and it keeps it cleaner. I don't think my knives last that long, but I'm okay with that. Now, here's the back strap. There's some little bit of blood-shock meat I'm going to take off. And Steve reminded me of this. I changed my gloves. After you skin a deer, after you touch the skin of an animal, or the innards, it's a good idea to change your gloves, because now we're talking about food. Now everything on this table is real food. So, first back strap. I'm going to cut straight down, and I'm going to turn the knife up slightly so I can get the silver skin, what they call, which is really a big tendon on the back side, off the back strap. I'm going to trim the edge of it, and it typically pulls straight off. Here's my bin for grind. So anything that you don't want to, have in your everyday meat, you use it as grind. Anything you can't grind, I use as dog food. You've seen my video on that. So this is a beautiful piece of back strap. I can tell by how soft the meat is in my hands of the quality. It's going to be beautiful. Doesn't have any smell. I am going to do a grading taste test on it, as you saw in another one of my videos. So I know whether to keep it. I'll give it to my buddy I'm not that fond of. Here's the top of the tendon there. I actually take this, put this on the grill on real high heat, and then I let it dry out, and I give it to my dog as a dog toy. And well, they eat it pretty quickly. On your back strap, there's a tail. So I typically take it right to where the tail starts getting thin. But this piece here is an excellent piece of meat. I'll eat this for dinner tonight. Pull a little bit of the fat off. I'm going to put it in the corner there so I know exactly where it is. Again, here's the second piece of back strap. All the trimmings are fine for grind. There's a piece of fat here. Basically, if it's white on a deer, you don't eat it. That straight fat, no good for the dog, no good for the grinder, goes in the garbage. One of the few things that I don't use on a deer is the pure fat. Trimming this tendon off here. Now, There you go. There's your back straps. I typically leave them at least 6 inches long, maybe 8. Size doesn't really matter, except you're talking about back straps, right? Sorry about that. All right, now there's something called peeling a back strap too. So you can grab the back skin of it and it'll pull off. This piece of fat is no good. The meat on the front of it is good. You can hold it similar to a fish skin, throw the fat away, keep the piece that's actually more fat than meat. Back over, I'm going to move a little faster now. This is the second back strap, halfway through. There you go. There's that little bit of silver skin. Try to keep the cut as thin as possible. And here, spin around, pull. There's some extra meat on here. And because the deer aged, it's just pulling apart beautifully. Super soft, really, really high quality from the aging process. Again, this is some grind meat. Most of the muscles will separate themselves, so you can tell where the neck meat is from the back strap just by kind of separating it with your fingers. This is some of the blood shock. I can feel the bone fragments in there. So either from the shotgun shell or bullet, I should say. I'm going to throw that piece away. Nobody wants to chew on a piece of bone. And I can feel it on my glove, so I'm changing my glove on my right hand. I know, guys, this might be a little bit more of a slower video, but I'm trying to tell you the things that really are important to me when I'm butchering a deer. Not so much what I was taught by somebody else, but what I've experienced in my life and what made me not like the venison. If you took a cow and you shot it in your backyard and then your buddy drove around the block with it, I don't know, half a dozen times, then you gave it to some 22-year-old, he left it on the floor of his garage for a couple of days, and then you butchered it, you'd never eat beef again. So taking care of beef is well known. Butchers do it professionally. Taking care of venison, I would say more than 50% of people screw it up. It's our duty to the animal, it's our duty to each other to really take care of meat properly, and that's what we're doing here. So here are the back straps. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put the meat in the bin. It's still plenty cool out, so we can butcher with the meat outside. So there you go. I'm going to put this over here before we wrap it. Now what we're going to do, just for speed purposes, we're going to do a couple shoulders. I'm going to do a shoulder, and Steve's going to do a shoulder. We'll talk through it. There's a couple of hairs on here. I always say get the hairs off first if you can. There's a trick with a... Steve, this must have been your side.
Nope, this was mine.
Was it? You marked it, so you knew, huh? So when I was going to make fun of you...
Yeah, I know which one's the left and the right.
I still don't know which is left and right. All right. Same paring knife. There's a bone here. It's part of the scapula that you run right down the bone. And you bevel kind of sideways with the knife. I think that's the right word. And you kind of take the meat off the bone, and you'll have the scapula start to emerge. Now we're going to be using this. You can make a roast out of this. I've seen it done, but I tend to use it for grind meat. All right, there's I guess you could call it a humerus. And I'm cutting the meat away from the bone. And because it really doesn't matter about the size of a roast here, there's a triangle piece of fat you want to cut away. All fat, garbage. The rest of the meat here, as I'm cutting it away, there's a couple tricks to doing this. You cut straight down. But again, we're using this for grind, so it doesn't matter that much. The back side of the scapula, it's got a nice piece of meat on it. Don't leave that. Kind of skin that off the back of the scapula. Now, I want to show you something cool real quick. This is your scapula, okay? You bow hunters, when you shoot a deer and you say, oh, I went through the shoulder, this is what you're shooting at. And the ridge in the middle, that's going to stop your broadhead. And the other piece here, I mean, I could stick my knife through it. You see that? That's no big deal. But when you hit this hard ridge here, all of a sudden your arrow's likely going to stop, especially if you have a mechanical broadhead. But everyone will argue the differences on that. I butcher a lot of deer. I see a lot of deer that were shot but not killed, where the broadheads are and what kind of broadheads are in there. This is gonna, again, another archery controversial topic is broadheads. But I can tell you, a 3-blade broadhead opening up from the front and kind of jumping jack or scissor jacks back, those are the ones I find to have the least penetration. And when I'm skinning or butchering a deer, I find them inside deer, and I would assume that makes them a little less effective because it takes so much energy for them to get through the deer. Finishing up on the butchering talk here. There's some of this front leg here is really tough with tendon and ligament. That doesn't mean we can't use it. It just means it's likely going to be used as dog food as opposed to grind or steaks or roast or anything from us. Okay, there's your bone. There's a couple pieces at the joint. A lot of times I'll let my dog chew on this, but right now we're just gonna move on. Throw the rest of this in the bin here. I'm just gonna make some of this the right size to grind. How you doing, Steve? I mean, it's a good thing Steve's quiet because I never shut up, so makes us good friends. See, he didn't even react to that.
Nope. It's the truth.
That's the shoulders. Now, we got 2 hams here. We're going to continue right on into the hams. Remember I told you about that guy and the dried up piece of meat? Say hello, Hunter.
Hello.
That's it right there. That's all hardtack. There's really nothing you can do with that. But once we get the piece out, you'll see what's happening. There's also something called an ossobuco. You know what that is on a pig or a lamb? I'm going to cut it out of this piece of hind quarter here, and you'll see. You know, venison ossobuco is excellent. It's just as good as lamb. But you got. I'll do it on this one. You can cut. You'll be fine. Now this piece here, again, that's the hardtack. That's garbage. We lost that. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just cutting along the seams of the meat so I can get my ossobuco out. First thing that comes out is a nice roast. On a bigger ham, he's just cutting right from the kneecap straight over to the femur, and you'll be able to take your pieces off at that. Here's the first roast. I'll trim that up in a second. There's an eye round here that you take off. And you can see where the muscles separate. So if you've never butchered before, use your fingers more than your knife. There's that. I'm going to trim around the bone. Again, I do have my cutting glove underneath my blue food quality glove here. And we won't talk about that. You don't talk about seasick when you're on a boat. You don't talk about cutting your hand when you're holding a knife. Steve finished his deboning, and he's taken off the lower shanks, and that's basically dog food. It's so tough. It's basically dog food. So I'm working on, again, the ossobuco. And how I cook the ossobuco is in a crock pot. I like to give it the full day. And because the deer is kind of small, I don't just use the shank. There's another muscle above it. You know what? I have no idea what it's called. So I'm just going to call it the muscle above it. Okay. We're going to make this whole piece here your ossobuco. So I'm going to cut the top of it and get the bone out. Sometimes it's a little harder than it looks. Fold from the top. You'll see where the fat is, and I'm breaking the bone joint. This is why you know why my slickers get so dirty. You gotta watch as you hold the knife toward yourself. Okay. Now the next step is I'm gonna trim a little bit of this fat off. Remember, we're cooking this a long time in the crock pot, so I'm not too worried about silver skin or mesentery layer and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna take. I don't feel like starting up my bandsaw, so I'm just gonna use my bone saw here. Okay. Here you go, guys. This is your ossobuco. I'm going to trim that up a little bit more, but that's a really nice piece of meat. It makes a great little roast, and most people don't even pay attention to it. It took as long to do this as it did to take Steve to debone the whole ham, but it's still worth it. That goes right in my meat bucket here. Now, we're going to finish taking apart the hams. And each piece of this, I do something with. Depending on, the size of the deer and what it is, you'll notice there's a little round roast. It's really a sirloin roast that almost looks like a football. Okay? And it's got some white stripes in it and silver skin and things like that. This piece here, okay? It's a little sirloin roast. Everybody wants to trim the heck out of this and make it, where it's nothing left, but it looks pretty to the eye. I'm going to take the outside silver skin off, mesentery layer, I guess it is, and I'm leaving the rest like it is. I've cooked hundreds of these in my life and not had a problem with the little bit of silver skin and the different layers in between just melting away in a crock pot. So I have one as a roast. I'm going to take my fillet type knife and I'm going to make one into sirloin steaks. About an inch thick, straight down. The knife is going through it like butter right now. It's beautiful. You see this here? Let me finish cutting it. You want a nice piece of meat to go on a grill? You want a nice little steak? You want to wrap something up in bacon? This is what you want to do. So I kind of keep them in size order. The ends like this aren't so pretty. You can make stew out of them, or I can grind them. I'm going to put this in our wrap bucket. Guys, I call this a chicken steak. It's not chicken, or I call it a grill steak. It's a really nice little piece of meat. There's one in each of the hams, and I'll pull it out of this one now. Again, I don't exactly know the name of it. I just know it's the Taste Good steak. All right. And when you're pulling it out, it will rip in your hands. It'll actually like fall apart, so you have to be gentle on it. That means it's going to be good eating. Okay? You get two of them like this, and I'm going to simply take my fillet type knife. I'm going to hold it flat, and I'm going to cut right through. Okay? Now you have two really nice steaks. Yeah, there's a couple little white tendons in it, so what? Throw it on the grill if you got to pull it out later. But to take all that time, cut out that tendon, and lose a ton of meat, by the time it's on the grill, you won't even know the difference. Again, so you got 4 really pretty steaks out of those to chicken steak, grill steak, whatever you want to call that little piece of soft meat that's in between the hams. High quality, excellent venison. Here's the last piece that it's kind of like the London broil of the deer. Okay, so I'll trim around, and now there's fat here. I'm going to take my fillet type knife and cut along the fat. Okay, there you go. That piece of fat is no good, but the bottom piece below it is fine enough for grind. Fat's in the garbage, grind's there. I take this piece of meat upside down that I just took the bottom off of it. Take that little piece of fat, and here come my cutlets. So when you get cutlets from me, they're from this London broil type piece. This is tougher than the backstrap. It's tougher than the sirloin roast. It's tougher than that little chicken steak. So I cut these a quarter-inch thick, maybe a little bit more, and I'm cutting down and cutting away from the tendon that's on the bottom. I cut them thick enough that you can pound them a little thinner, and it makes it soft enough so when you bread and fry these or fry them up with, peppers and onions, they're softer. So if you just cut them straight, they won't be as good. Cut them a quarter of an inch to maybe half an inch thick. Then you pound them another, half the thickness, and you're good to go. This is a bunch of tendon. This is good dog food stuff. All right, let me one more cut or two more cuts out of this. Okay. There's a pile, a couple of little white pieces in there, but that's fine. There's a pile of beautiful cutlets and a couple of hairs that Steve left in there. That's no joke. This poor guy's been dealing with me for a long time and all these damn things. Okay, here's these bigger roasts that I like to leave whole. This is a roast that I actually use for venison roasts. Super high quality. When I do a stew, I take 2 of these out and I cut them up into stew. I don't use shoulders for stew. I get enough venison. I don't have to do that. Shoulders are totally fine for it. I'm cutting the back side of this out. And if you ever hear of a femoral artery, the big artery in here is the femoral. That's when you hit a deer in the rear end and it runs 20 yards and falls over dead. And you think you're a great hunter, but you were just lucky. That's what that is. Okay, nice piece of roast. I'm going to wrap that whole as a roast. Going in a bucket. One more. There's a piece on top of this that I don't like, so I cut it off. And I grind it, but I don't want it on my roast. It's more for presentation than anything else. And again, here's that piece that I'm taking off. One for safety again, because it touched the inner side of the deer. I don't think there's any real risk of bacteria, but I don't like dealing with it. Okay. There's your second big roast. Nice big roasts. Again, I'm going to cut the bottom side, take out some of that artery that I talked about. That's a good piece. Roast in the bucket. All right, we got a couple of eye rounds. Now, these are like a tougher. This is a piece that's not the eye round. You can kind of see it. These are a slightly tougher piece of meat. And I really haven't found a good thing. I just stuck my finger with the knife and it didn't go through the glove underneath. It poked through the rubber glove but not the other glove. So that's why I wear them. So this is my eye round. I'll make pepper steak and stuff like that out of them, but they're going to be a little tough. Deer's done. We're gonna wrap this stuff and we're gonna grind some of it. I'll give you a couple quick shots of that, but you get about 1/3 of the weight of the deer. This deer was probably 110 pounds, maybe
105,
100, maybe even a little less. And you're looking at this is probably 30 pounds.
Yep.
So And you have a bunch here too. So between the two of these, it's definitely 30%, maybe a little more. We're gonna clean up again, and we'll catch up to you, showing you how to do a little grind and showing you how to final wrap, and we're all done with the deer. No reason to go to a butcher, guys. This is a nice, quick way to do it. All right, guys, we're gonna do a quick wrapping sequence here. This is one of the back straps, okay? I lay it in saran wrap. Wrap once. Wrap side down. Wrap twice. Okay? I wrap it twice. I don't have to worry about this for 2 years. It'll last. Then I have a little shrink wrap bag here for my vacuum sealer. Slide it right in here. You ever see the scene with Dances with Wolves when he's grinding the coffee? It's kind of what we're doing right now. La 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 la. Getting one of these that's kind of quick will help you get through deer quicker. All right, there's my back strap. That's the way it looks now. This is the way it'll look 2 years from now. It's double wrapped with saran, and then it's vacuum sealed. This, again, will last 2 years. It doesn't get freezer burned. It comes out just like it went in. That's how you wrap venison. I do that for all the other pieces.
Even if it loses its vacuum seal,
Yep.
being wrapped in the plastic keeps it from freezer burning.
Exactly. And when you move meat around over time, it ends up puncturing holes in it, and you'll see it open up. But that saran wrap is tight against the meat. It's frozen there. You're in good shape. All right, the second half of the final part of getting the deer butchered is your grind. Okay, Steve's over here, taking as much white out of it as he can, separating the dog food, which is totally unedible meat for humans, from the meat that can be ground. Here's my grind bags. I get them on Lem. It's a kind of like a butchering website. You take your bag, you slide it over the end of the tube here. I have a pedal at my foot. I'm using a plunger to push down. Now you have to let it push through your hands slowly. If you can see that, it's filling up. You have to hold it and let it slide. It's kind of a feeling that you get. There you go. I'm done. So I fill it just above the 1 pound line. I spin down on it so it takes all the air, takes my glove, takes all the air out of it. It's a nice, clean, tight package. Then I come over here and I have a special little tool that puts a plastic sticky wrap around the top. There you go. There's your ground venison, ready to be eaten in the middle of July as hamburgers. So guys and gals, that's how you butcher a deer. It's how I do it. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that can comment on how they do it. I learn stuff from guys every day. I'll have a butchering party where everybody comes in, they show me their techniques, I show them mine, and then either I use it, if it's better, if not, they use my techniques. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you understood what I just did. If you have any questions, hit me up. If you like what I did, subscribe. I'll be doing this with all different types of meat throughout the summer and fish. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.